the Overman Warrior Podcast.
Behold the serpent of judgment! The power is broken! Release it!
Hi, it's Rich Hoffman here. Obviously, I feel like I have to talk about it because people ask me and they see me at events and they have questions about, just questions. Human beings interact with each other in really a multitude of ways. There's usually a lot of psychological factors that go into relationships and what people do and how they behave with one another. And this is provoked because I've been at a few events and people, ask me, well, you're awful friendly with Sheriff Jones. I've always liked Sheriff Jones. And sometimes you get in these political squabbles or someone you like might pick somebody that you don't like for a political office, and the political tides might move in a direction that's not to your liking. And people are often confused by how can you maintain good relationships with people that you disagree with. And I think in Sheriff Jones's case, most everything that I think we'd sit down, well, when we do sit down, we agree on most everything. I think sometimes you just have disagreements in political motivations. You might have disagreements on who to support to best achieve what a political need is. But through the process of pressure and politics, usually the right answer emerges. And when you get too wrapped up in the emotions of it, it can be a very destructive thing. And this is where people get a little sideways, I guess, when they see, that I'm very friendly and chummy with Sheriff Jones and others who I've had who have been on opposite sides of certain political debates with. I've always liked Sheriff Jones. I've always liked a lot of the people that people might see me get sideways with. And I feel and reserve the right to like and enjoy anybody that's out there. With that said, there's an awful lot of people that I can't stand and I think are horrible people that I'm very friendly with too. Because, and ultimately in life, everything you do, you either have an authentic approach to it, or you're trying to manipulate somebody into your way of thinking. And my standpoint on just about everything is I'm very secure in my positions, and I express them and talk about them and share them in forums like this. Because if it helps somebody get where they need to go, then that's great. If someone disagrees with me, I'm not going to jump off a cliff. I have an awful lot of people who want to be very friendly with me and talk to me, and there's not enough hours since the creation of the universe to do it. There's no way to interact with everybody who would like to. But then for me to advance the ball on certain things, there's people I talk to that I probably wouldn't want to talk to just so I can make sure things happen the way they need to happen. And how do you know what's right and wrong in all that exchange? Well, it just so happened, and this came up the other day as I was talking to a good friend of mine, who we were talking about my youth and the interesting perspectives that came from it. I happen to know during my growing up period, a lot of rough characters, a lot of celebrity characters. I learned those first 10 adult years of my life how to navigate grotesquely obvious psychological problems that come from interacting with people that bring with them huge disappointments. And you can say that it was the guiding hand of God that put me through those conditions. I always woke up every single day in life since I was my first conscious moments wanting to be the good guy in every scenario. And I have never, for 1 second of my life, contemplated being a bad guy, a villain, a negative character. So I've always had this idea of fighting for justice. And in the wake of that, you meet a lot of people. And often there are lots of forces that are up to no good that will confront you, and there'll be a lot of destruction in the wake of those opposite forces coming into contact with each other. And when you've seen the worst of it, and I have, and you've been through the most rigorous sleepless nights and ominous courtroom proceedings that you can go through, and I have, you come to a certain place and you stop worrying about some of the main ways that humans interact with each other. So most human relationships come down to two basic things. One is you use friendships to manipulate quantities of people to do something you want done. And in politics, that's often the way it works. You go out there and get a bunch of people on your side, and they go out and knock on a lot of doors and say, hey, vote for so-and-so, and then you get in office because a lot of people vote for you. And you get there through friendships. And then there's another side to that same coin, very closely related. The motivation that people have is not with the smiling face, but it's the butt of a gun or the closed fist, where you say, do what I say, or I'm going to remove my friendship with you and not be friends with you anymore, or I'm gonna bring violence to your doorstep, and I'm gonna come and harass you and try to intimidate you and scare you into submission. And that's where you get all these authoritarian governments. We hear all these stories about spiritual warfare, where the demons of existence might climb into your dreams and try to undercut everything you're trying to do. Or just a bully will want to fight you in a parking lot somewhere because you don't think the way they do. From my position, if you're secure in what you're doing and you know where you stand on things, nobody's going to change you. And if you're not afraid of anybody trying to harass you on a spiritual realm or with a clenched fist in a parking lot to want to have a fight, and you know you can handle anything that they throw at you, so why do you worry about it? And then on the friendship front, they're either friends with you or they're not. They either like you or they don't. And there's a lot of people, a whole lot of people that I like a lot. And I've never backed off my liking of people like Sheriff Jones, even if we are rooting for different candidates. And I use him because he's a very public person, and when we're in public together, I genuinely, warmly like talking to him. I think what he does with his brand is great, and I think it's great. No people like that are out there in the world. But if he goes sideways on something, and there's been times where he has, and we don't talk to each other, that's okay. I can like somebody and them not like me back. And in the case of there's a lot of people that I like quite a lot and have liked quite a lot, and then they don't like something, my position or something I do or something that goes on, and they'll try to pull the friend card. I'm not going to be friends with you anymore because I don't like something you're doing, or I don't like your opinion, or I don't like your support of so and so. And so the common thing in that kind of situation is to withdraw the relationship. I've been married for it's really close to 40 years now, and you don't stay married that long. You go through a period, and all women do it, and men do it too. But women don't rely on their physical prowess as much as men do, so they play a lot of mind games by nature, and you raise children, you raise grandchildren, you have in-laws that come into your family and do things. And I mean, I'm just a little war weary to try and explain this. I have to do it for a lot of reasons here, but it's just for context, and don't take it personal. My reaction to some of these things, because I've learned through the school of hard knocks what works, what doesn't. And so what a woman will do to manipulate a husband, a very common thing, is do the passive aggressive. I'm not going to be your friend anymore. I'm not going to smile at you. I'm not going to let you hug me. I'm not going to treat you in a romantic way unless you cut the grass, or unless you listen to me talk about my mother for 4 or 5 hours on a Saturday afternoon, or whatever thing it is that she wants to do. She'll pull back the cozy sentiments in order to get what she wants. And humans do that. They learn it in school. They learn how to manipulate other people. If you're not my friend, then I'm not going to let you put a sticker on your locker next to mine, or whatever crazy thing it is. We learn to manipulate each other that way from children. And I would say that in my life, I've learned to live above those things. I kind of treat people who behave that way like they're animals that are still struggling to communicate, like a dog wanting table scraps, or a cat that wants you to pet it when it wants you to, and it wants to lay in the window in the hot sun on days where it's indifferent to your presence. And the manipulations of humans with each other, and I'll give you a little something if you give me a little something, is how we exchange relationships and values to each other. But on the same token, when those mechanisms don't work and the other person doesn't care if they're friends or not, then the next intimidation is violence. Do you want to reside happily? Do you want to go to Kroger without being harassed? Do you not want protesters in your front yard? And in my case, I happen to like all that confrontation. I like fighting, and I find that you get the truth out of people when you have conflicts. That doesn't mean that I might get myself wrapped up in that conflict. I will probably keep myself aloof and lofty so I can observe everybody's behavior. But for my personal investment, I don't get wrapped up in what people think or what they do. And back to my personal relationships, there might be a lot of people that I like a lot, like in the Sheriff Jones case. I might have always liked them. But if you're trying to do a political movement, you're at odds on that. I'm going to have my position, and I'm going to stick to it because I'm going to do what I think is right over wrong every single time. And if someone doesn't like it and they play one of those mechanisms, I'm not going to be your friend if you don't put the sticker on next to my locker, or unless you profess something I want you to profess in public at the expense of something else. Unless you do that, I'm not going to be your friend. Or if you don't do what I tell you, we're going to have a fight. In my case, I take all options off the table and don't let myself never, 0% of the time. And again, I was blessed to learn this early in my life, to get wrapped up in one of those two manipulative mechanisms, withdrawal of friendship or the threat of physical violence. You just learn to deal with both those scenarios, however they present themselves, in every single condition. Using one of my favorite books, The Art of War, you prevent yourself to be invincible under any circumstance. You may not be able to dictate how the fight concludes because you can't control what other people do directly. You can influence it, but you may not be able to control what they do and the decisions they make, but you can certainly control the ones you do. And so when you talk about the art of becoming invincible, you don't put yourself in a scenario where either of those tactics work, withdrawal of friendship or the threat of physical violence. And if you stay outside that, you can accomplish great things in life in ways that the rest of civilization gets hung up on. Again, I use the word civilization loosely because I am always interested in the macro of human affairs, not the little micro relationships of whether couples fight or don't fight or get divorced or stay married for a long time or what their kids think and whether they let the kids go over and play at a friend's house. All those little things are part of the human experience, but they are not part of the overall picture, which is what I always like to think about. So I might like a lot of people who don't like me back. They may talk and gossip and plot and scheme against me, and they may hate me for periods of their life, and I'm totally okay with that. I'm used to that, as a matter of fact. But it doesn't change that I might like them, or I may hate them, or I may be completely indifferent to their existence. I'm going to do what I think is the correct thing in the scope of an immortal existence, and we'll see how all that shakes out in the end. But I have my personal feelings about people, and when I see them in public and I want to shake their hand or they want to shake my hand and maybe even give me a hug, because there's been some tough political battles out there, I'm totally good with all of it. I have my opinions, and they stay solid no matter what's going on in the world. So my always primary concern is doing what's right and discovering what right is in the fog of war in personalities and how they clash. So I think that's an important context as we talk about politics and we talk about rhino Republicans against traditional conservatives or Reform Party conservatives or emerging politics, political theater, religion against those who don't have any, different religions and different points of view for whatever those perspectives might be. Everybody has a belief system of some kind, and they often clash. And my stance on it is I make my values about people regardless of what any of those things are or what the scoreboard actually says at the end of the dispute. Whoever wins or loses, you still make decisions about people based on your value in them. And it's not predicated, and you can't get wrapped up on whether you give it to them or they don't give it back and how they can use that as leverage against you to manipulate you in some way that might go against the pursuit of righteousness and good. So I think it's just a shared vantage point, and when people ask me, I want to answer it all at the same time and let people know that that's where I'm at, and I can claim independence over those kinds of manipulations because I've built my life in a way that I have that luxury. And that's truly the way to get to righteousness in whatever endeavor you're embarking on. And you'll often find that people you have conflicts with come around, and you'll get over it, and maybe you'll have a nice exchange with them in the future. Maybe the past is really reckless, or maybe you had great relationships in the past. In the future, you have a fight, and you don't want to even see each other passing at a shopping center. Those disputes might permeate as a result of the emotions attached to whatever circumstances the conflict embroiled over. But from my perspective, my values are completely my own, and if I value people, I let them know it when I see them. I don't wrap myself in those kinds of games where I'll withdraw my friendship if they don't do something I like. I'll just I just remain indifferent to the immediate circumstances and put myself in a position where the immediacy of the moment will be subservient to the magnificence of immortality and whatever spawns from a lifetime of righteousness. So it's okay to like people who hate you, and I do that a lot. And it's also okay to be friendly with people who hate you. Because if you're in the pursuit of truth, one way to find out where they're at is to see what kind of fight comes out of it, so you can see what their positions are, and then the way you'll know what the truth eventually is. But that's really the only way to get there. and you can't get wrapped up in the manipulations that humans have, because then every idea will stay grounded in small-minded thinking. And again, I talk about those first 10 adult years of my life, and telling some of the stories of that period. And I didn't go out looking for an association with some really rough characters. They just sort of ended up on my doorstep, and I learned a lot about how that part of the world works. And once you've been through the worst of it, it puts you in perspective for the rest of your life, really. And nothing really is catastrophic once you've seen some of the things that I did in human relationships and what they can do to each other. Context often helps and matters, and I think it's helped me be able to deal with a lot of contentious relationships at all parts of my life, including this one, because I take the big picture every time and let come what may of everybody else in that transition process. And people are going to think what they're going to think, and I think you have to respect their right to think it, even if they're dead wrong. Eventually, if they're good people, they'll come around to the right way of thinking, and that's the way that you live a righteous existence, where truth is defined by that righteousness, not by the personal desires of the participants. Which then, if you're playing the game of, I'm going to withdraw my friendship unless you do what I say, or I'm going to have physical violence on you because I disagree with you and I want to beat you into submission until you think what I think, that's not great getting to the truth. And if you're only interested in a righteous outcome that is rooted in truth, you have to respect all sides of the story, even if they're in conflict with yours, because the truth has to emerge on its own good merit. And that's where my interests are 100% of the time. And over the years, that has been how I found the truth to reveal itself, even through the fog of war and the fires of conflict as they emerge through hot tempers. Usually all that subsides into an eventuality that is good for everybody, and that is a righteous existence. And that's why when people ask me, well, why did you shake hands? Why are you so friendly with Sheriff Jones? I like Sheriff Jones. And there's a lot of people that I like that I've had political disputes with in the past, but usually the truth comes out and everybody can shake hands and share a hot dog at the next political picnic, and we'll talk about big lofty things as the smoke of emotion drifts into the past. And that's the way I like it. And that's the way I live. And anybody that interacts with me will receive the same benefit. Anyway, Rich Hoffman here. Share, subscribe, make tomorrow a better day. If you haven't read my book, The Gunfighter's Guide to Business, I think you'll love it. Anyway, have a good day. See you later.
Thank you for listening.